for 12 a.m. local time. March 20th, 2026. Bandar Abbas, Iran. Before the sun rose over the Persian Gulf on March 20th, 2026, 5 missiles left Iranian soil, and the United States had 13 minutes to stop all of them, deep inside a telecommunications relay. Tower 9 miles east of the city, 5 encrypted radio bursts transmit simultaneously. Each transmission is brief under half a second. Each carries a unique authorization sequence. Each sequence routes to a separate destination buried beneath the Iranian coastline. One carrier, 13 minutes, and America didn't see it coming. Spread across a 22-mile stretch of shore, from a small fishing settlement called Cirque to the commercial docks at JAS-5 mobile launch platforms begin their mechanical ascent. Hydraulic arms, lifting, railheads rising, all within 11 seconds of one another. The weapon mounted on each platform is the Al-Qadr Block 2 variant, designated internally by the Iranian Aerospace Force, 10.8 meters long. Launch weight, 1,900 kilograms. Each warhead section houses a laser gyroscope guidance array paired with a terminal homing radar module. An upgrade completed 8 months prior. Iran did not upgrade these weapons for a drill. Tonight is operational. 20-6 months of preparation culminate in this moment. Not a warning, not a demonstration. A full salvo aimed at the single most capable naval target in the western Persian Gulf, 50-8 miles to the southwest. USS Abraham Lincoln transits the Strait of Hormuz at 9 knots. Carrier Strike Group 3 is at standard watch standing posture, not at battle stations. The intelligence assessment issued 72 hours earlier rated Iranian threat conditions as elevated, but not imminent. That assessment will become the most costly analytical error in the strike group's operational history. The Lincoln displaces 104,000 tons at full load. Her crew numbers 5,000 sailors. Her air wing carries a replacement value exceeding $13 billion. Her weapons magazines hold enough precision munitions to dominate any theater she enters. By any serious military calculation, she is the hardest target anywhere in the Gulf tonight. Iran looked at the hardest target in the Gulf and chose to fire at it anyway, with 5 of their most advanced weapons simultaneously, not because their planners believed all 5 would penetrate American defenses, because they calculated that the Lincoln's strike group could not solve 5 separate intercept geometries at once, and that a single warhead reaching the flight deck would be enough to change everything. Here is where the architecture gets sophisticated. 4 minutes before the Al-Qadr salvo lifts off at 4:08 in the morning, 3 Fateh-110 short-range ballistic missiles rise from mobile platforms, operating under civilian maritime cover, 44 miles north-northwest of the Lincoln's position. Each Fateh costs approximately $1.1 million. Total decoy investment, $3.3 million. 1 Fateh is aimed toward the Lincoln. 1 toward the Ticonderoga's cruiser, USS Lake Champlain, running screening position 6 nautical miles northeast. 1 toward the destroyer, USS Chaffee, positioned 9 miles to the northwest. None of the Fatehs are intended to hit anything. They are designed to pull every fire control radar in the strike group toward the north-northwest quadrant and to begin draining interceptor inventory before the real salvo even leaves Iranian soil. While American ships were shooting down decoys, 5 actual missiles were already climbing. The Lake Champlain's SPY-1B radar classifies all 3 Fateh launches within 14 seconds of ignition. Threat tracks assigned. Intercept solutions computed. The Lake Champlain fires 2 SM-3 Block 1B interceptors at the Fateh, heading for the Lincoln, and 1 SM-3 Block 1B at the Fateh. The Chaffee fires 1 SM-3 Block 1A at the missile targeting her own position for interceptors away in 31 seconds. For SM-3 interceptors combined, value $50.6 million, chasing $3.3 million worth of decoys. All 3 Fatehs are destroyed between 29 and 34 miles altitude. Clean intercepts. Debris over open water. They spent $3.3 million to make America burn. $50 million in response. Fire control teams log their kills, reload their solution queues, and sweep the threat picture for follow-on tracks. They find 5 simultaneously. The Al-Qadr salvo launches at 4, 12, and 7 seconds. All 5 missiles clear their rails within 9 seconds of one another, from 5 separate positions distributed across that 22-mile coastal arc. Every infrared sensor above the eastern Gulf is painted by 5 distinct thermal blooms within 8 seconds. Of the first ignition, an NRO reconnaissance satellite transiting the strait at that moment captures imagery that will later be described as 5 exhaust columns rising from the Iranian coastline. In the shape of an open hand, Iran is not concealing the launch. Iran is betting that 5 simultaneous inbound tracks from 5 different compass headings will generate more defensive geometry problems than the Lincoln's strike group can resolve in the time remaining. They were almost right. The core challenge: 5 ballistic missiles launched from 5 separate azimuths require 5 independent intercept solutions from 5 different angular positions. No single ship in the strike group can cover all 5 geometries alone. The Lake Champlain runs solutions for all 5 tracks simultaneously from her position. The Chaffee computes from a different angle. The destroyer, USS Gridley, running trail 28 miles to the southeast, feeds her SPY-6 radar data into the Cooperative Engagement Network shared across all 3 hulls. 3 separate radar pictures fuse into a single, real-time, continuously updated threat display, refreshing 14 times per second. 8 minutes remain before the earliest possible impact. The Lake Champlain fires 2 SM-3 Block 2A interceptors at track Alpha. The Al-Qadr assessed as highest priority due to its steep descent trajectory. $56 million airborne in under 4 seconds. She follows with 1 SM-3 Block 2A against track Bravo, approaching from the easternmost launch position. Another $28 million. The Chaffee fires 1 SM-3 Block 2A, each at track Charlie and track Delta, another $56 million. Committed. Track Echo. The 5th. Al-Qadr is approaching from a launch position that sits inside an angular dead zone where the Lake Champlain's SM-3 engagement geometry is severely constrained. Chaffee is too far south. Gridley is already managing a different problem 28 miles away. Track Echo belongs to the Lincoln's own air defense team. The Lincoln does not carry SM-3 missiles. She carries rolling airframe missile launchers, phalanx close-in weapon system, guns, and SM-2 block for missiles. She has 90 seconds to build a valid intercept solution. 7 minutes remain. 3 fires lit above the Gulf at the same time, and one of them was heading straight for the Lincoln with nothing in the way. The SM-3 intercepts execute at altitude. The 2 SM-3 Block 2 as tracking Alpha reached their intercept corridor above 80 miles altitude. The kinetic kill vehicle on the first interceptor drives into the Al-Qadr's midsection at a combined closing velocity of 13,800 miles per hour. The missile comes apart in a high-altitude debris field. The second SM-3 transits the debris cloud and detonates in proximity, confirming the kill. Track Alpha eliminated. 2 missiles, $56 million. 1 Al-Qadr destroyed. The single SM-3 assigned to track Bravo reaches intercept at 71 miles altitude. The kinetic impact fractures the Al-Qadr's upper stage. The carrier body disintegrates. But the maneuvering re-entry vehicle, the warhead itself, separates from the destruction event cleanly. Continuing under its own internal guidance authority, this is what Block 2 means. The warhead is specifically engineered to survive the destruction of its delivery stage and continue homing independently. Laser gyroscope, active. Terminal homing radar, active. Track Bravo's warhead is descending. Nobody intercepted the warhead. 1 SM-3 killed the missile. The warhead kept flying. The SM-3 targeting track Charlie scores a clean exotmospheric intercept at 83 miles altitude. Track Charlie is finished. 1 missile, $28 million. Track Delta's SM-3 reaches intercept geometry at 68 miles altitude, but 4 seconds before impact. The Al-Qadr's modified upper stage fires a brief attitude correction burn, shifting the re-entry corridor 12 miles northwest toward the Lincoln's position. The SM-3 strikes the upper stage and inflicts severe structural damage, but the re-entry vehicle separates partially damaged. Asymmetric thermal protection compromised on one side. Laser gyroscope, functional. Maneuvering thruster fuel remaining at 67%. Track Delta's warhead is falling. Track Bravo's warhead is falling. Track Echo has not been engaged. 3. Active threats. The Lincoln sits inside all 3 projected impact corridors. 6 minutes remain. Aboard the Lincoln, the Air Defense Coordinator has been tracking Echo for 4 minutes and 14 seconds. She fires 2 SM-2 Block 4 missiles in a ripple sequence at 4:14 and 52 seconds. The SM-2 Block 4 is not an exoatmospheric interceptor. It is a high-altitude atmospheric weapon optimized for targets between 50,000 and 100,000 feet. Track Echo is currently at 142,000 feet and descending at Mach 9.2. The computed probability of a successful intercept from this fire control solution, 34%, the Lincoln fires them anyway. The alternative is leaving Track Echo completely uncontested. 34%. That is the number standing between 5,000 sailors and impact. Picture the scene. You are 24 years old, fire controlman, second class. You grew up in Boise, Idaho. You enlisted because your older brother wore the uniform before you. You have stood watch in this combat information center for 3 hours and 41 minutes tonight. You have trained this scenario in simulation 27 times since the Lincoln departed Bremerton. In every simulation, you faced tracks, sometimes 3. Tonight, there were 5, then 4, then 3, and the math stopped being simple 12 minutes ago. Your threat board currently shows 2 descending warheads and a third that your ship just fired its best available interceptors with 34% confidence. Your hands are resting on the secondary firing panel. You do not need to wait for someone to tell you what comes next. You have trained 3 years for exactly this moment. You are going to do your job. 5 minutes remain. Since 4:13 in the morning, the Lake Champlain has been building SM-6 firing solutions for exactly this scenario. High-velocity, maneuvering warheads in terminal descent, operating at altitudes where SM-3 cannot reach, and phalanx does not yet have a viable engagement window. The Lake Champlain fires 2 SM-6 missiles at Track Bravo's warhead, and 2 SM-6 missiles at Track Delta's warhead. 4 interceptors, minus $4.3 million each, depart the Lake Champlain's vertical launch cells in 11 seconds. Total, $17.2 million. 4 minutes remain. Track Echo is still descending, not yet engaged by SM-6. The Lincolns to SM-2 south reach their engagement altitude. The first misses Track Echo's warhead by 34 meters as the warhead executes a pre-programmed 11G lateral maneuver at 95,000 feet. The detonation occurs behind the warhead, not through it. Fragmentation disperses into empty air. The second, SM-2 achieves a proximity. Detonation 19 meters from Track Echo's warhead at 88,000 feet, 19 meters. The fragmentation pattern partially ablates the warheads. Leading thermal protection surface, internal guidance, electronics absorb minor shrapnel damage. Maneuvering thrusters remain functional. Track Echo is damaged, not defeated, 80-8,000 feet. Descending at Mach 8.7, the Chaffee fires to SM-2 6 missiles at Track Echo at 4:16 and 44 seconds, $8.6 million. 3 warheads still in the air. The clock was running out. 3 minutes remain. The SM-6 assigned to Track Bravo's warhead achieves active seeker lock at 9.1 miles and transitions to autonomous guidance. The warhead pulls a 13G right maneuver. The SM-6 follows its guidance system, computing, not where the warhead is now, but where it will be in 1.4 seconds. The SM-6 detonates its blast fragmentation. Warhead, 16 meters from Track Bravo's re-entry vehicle at 28,000 feet. Tungsten fragments tear through the guidance array and maneuvering thrusters. Track Bravo goes ballistic, unpowered, no longer maneuvering, predictable. The second SM-6 targeting Track Bravo acquires at 6.3 miles and guides itself to direct kinetic impact at 19,000 feet. Track Bravo disintegrates. Debris falls into open Gulf water. Track Delta's first SM-6 loses active seeker lock at 4 miles out. Post-engagement analysis will attribute the signal interruption to an Iranian electronic warfare asset operating from Keshem Island's civilian harbor infrastructure. The interceptor goes ballistic and misses by 280 meters. They embedded a jammer inside a civilian port. And it almost worked. This is the layer Iran designed specifically for this moment. Every defensive geometry they studied, every intercept test video their analysts reviewed, every vulnerability they modeled. This was the contingency they built for Force 1 SM-6 off its seeker. Clear the path. The second SM-6 targeting track, Delta reacquires at 3.1 miles on an automatic frequency shift protocol built precisely for jamming environments. It closes on the warhead and detonates at 23,000 feet. Direct impact. Track Delta's warhead fragments rain into the Gulf 8 miles east of the Lincoln. 2 minutes remain. Track Echo is at 55,000 feet. The Chaffee's first SM-6 is inbound. Track Echo's warhead is running compromised. The SM-2 detonation at 88,000 feet inflicted thermal damage that left the warhead's guidance system running hot. The laser gyroscope is overcorrecting, oscillating left and right to compensate for asymmetric heating, producing a in the descent path that the SM-6's active seeker is reading and continuously with each guidance update, the Chaffee's SM-6 detonates 11 meters from Track Echo's re-entry vehicle at 44,000 feet. Tungsten fragments drive through the guidance array, the maneuvering thruster fuel lines, and the nose assembly of the kinetic penetrator. Track Echo is no longer steering. It is falling. The Chaffee's second SM-6 acquires the tumbling warhead at 4.8 miles. Predictable ballistic trajectory. Clean shot geometry. Direct kinetic impact at 31,000 feet. 14 miles northwest of the Lincoln. Track Echo disintegrates. At 4:25 in the morning, in 33 seconds, the Air Defense Coordinator reports splash on all active tracks. 5 Al-Qadr missiles launched. 5 Al-Qadr warheads defeated. Total engagement duration from the first Iranian launch to the last confirmed splash, 13 minutes and 26 seconds. The Lincoln's crew would not learn until 2 hours later that Track Echo's warhead had come within 11 meters of defeating the final SM-6 fired at it and within 14 miles of the flight deck. Now run the numbers. Iran's 3 Fateh-110 decoys, $3.3 million. 5 Al-Qadr Block 2 missiles at $3.8 million each. $19 million. 2 Qadr-class submarines pre-positioned along the southern approach corridor, both destroyed by 4 Mark 54 torpedoes from a Lincoln-based Seahawk helicopter at 4:19, while the air engagement was still in progress. Approximately $16 million for the submarines, $2.64 million for the torpedoes. Launch infrastructure and the Keshem electronic warfare support layer. Estimated $4 million. Iran's total investment in this operation, approximately $42.3 million. The United States fired 5 SM-3 Block 1 interceptors worth $50.6 million. 5 SM-3 Block 2A interceptors worth $140 million. 2 SM-2 Block 4 missiles worth $3.8 million. 8 SM-6 missiles worth $34.4 million. For Mark 54 torpedoes worth $2.64 million. And 40 GBU-31 guided bombs delivered by 10 FA-18F Super Hornets launching from the Lincoln 31 minutes after the last splash, costing approximately $1 million in precision munitions against all 5 Iranian launch sites. American total expenditure to defend the Lincoln and destroy the infrastructure used to attack her, $232.44 million at exchange ratio. For every dollar Iran committed, the United States spent $5.50 in response. In a room in Tehran, someone wrote that number on a whiteboard, and then they wrote what it cost to produce the weapons that number failed to deliver. Somewhere in Iranian military planning infrastructure right now, an analyst is comparing the cost of 1 SM-3 block to an interceptor to the cost of producing 1 Al-Qadr block to missile. The SM-3 that killed 2 tonight costs enough to manufacture 37 additional Al-Qadr missiles. They are writing that figure in a separate color. Then, they are looking at the column marked operational results. 5 missiles launched, 0 penetrations, 2 submarines lost, 5 launch sites struck by American aircraft within 31 minutes, and they are doing a serious calculation about whether a exchange ratio with 0 results achieved represents a viable path to strategic pressure or a path toward national inventory exhaustion before American interceptor. Stocks run low. The Lincoln's vertical launch cells are already in replenishment coordination with the ammunition ship USS Rainier, trailing 28 nautical miles to the southeast. Full SM-3 and SM-6 reloads restored in under 9 hours. Iran requires an estimated 26 months to produce and field another comparable batch of Al-Qadr Block 2 missiles with updated maneuvering packages. The 2 submarines are on the Gulf floor. The Lincoln is still making 9 knots through the Strait at 4:47 in the morning. 10 FA-1, 8 F Super Hornets launch from the Lincoln's catapults in 2 five-aircraft waves. Each aircraft carries 4 GBU-31 Joint Direct Attack munitions, 2,000-pound GPS-guided weapons at $25,000 each, 40 bombs, $1 million in guided munitions. GPS coordinates for all 5 launch sites were loaded into each aircraft's targeting computer before the Super Hornets left the catapult deck, captured in real time by the same NRO satellite that recorded 5 exhorts columns rising from the Iranian coast 35 minutes. Earlier, the Hornets covered the distance at military power, 8 bombs per site. Each strike pattern collapses the underground access ramps, destroys road egress routes, and eliminates associated support equipment. All 5 sites are struck within 4 minutes of each other. Commercial satellite imagery will show 5 distinct crater fields along the Jask coastal arc before the Gulf Sun clears the Zagros Mountains. Iranian state media will describe the strikes as an unprovoked attack on agricultural and civilian infrastructure. The NRO imagery showing 5 simultaneous launch signatures at those exact coordinates will reach every UN Security Council member before Tehran finishes drafting its official statement. The evidence was already distributed. Before the denial was written, Iran's operational architecture tonight was genuinely sophisticated. Fateh decoys to drain SM-3 inventory and redirect radar coverage during the Al-Qadr boost phase, 5 simultaneous launch azimuths to overload single-ship intercept geometry, Block 2 maneuvering reentry vehicles specifically, engineered to separate from their delivery stage and continue homing independently, an electronic warfare layer embedded inside civilian port, infrastructure that successfully broke 1 SM-6's seeker lock and came within moments of allowing track deltas, warhead through the final defensive layer. 2 submarines prepositioned to exploit any flight deck damage if a warhead penetrated. Every layer was constructed by people who studied the same declassified missile defense analyses, reviewed the same public intercept test footage, and modeled the same engagement geometries that American weapons officers train against. Every layer was real. Every layer failed. Not because American technology performed without friction. Track Delta's first SM-6 lost lock. Track Echo came within 11 meters of defeating the interceptor assigned to stop it. The math was never comfortable. Every layer failed because the Lincoln's strike group did not operate as separate ships. It operated as a single fused network. 3 holes, 1 merged radar picture, refreshing 14 times every second. Cooperative engagement solutions that resolved geometry problems no individual ship could address alone against 5 simultaneous targets, approaching from 5 different directions. The electronic jamming that pulled 1 SM-6 off its target was defeated by a second SM-6 running a frequency shift protocol because the system was designed from the beginning to assume jamming would occur and pre-programmed the counter before the weapon left its launch cell. Iran engineered 5 weapons, sharp enough to defeat any single defensive layer an American ship carries alone. The strike group was not carrying 5 individual defensive layers. It was carrying 1 unified network that sees through 3 radar systems simultaneously and engages with 12 launch cells at once. If this breakdown showed you what modern naval missile defense actually looks like, give Winds of Thought a like right now and drop Hormuz in the comments so we know you stayed with us through every intercept. Subscribe, because next week we are going inside the Cooperative Engagement Capability network itself, examining exactly how 3 separate ships merged their radar data into 1 unified threat picture in real time, and why that architecture is the reason the Lincoln's flight deck resumed flight operations at 4:51 in the morning instead of burning the catapults were already cycling.